What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down the trades from this morning. Sitting right now, solid green day, green on 3 out of the 3 stocks I traded. Nice accuracy, but I didn't hit any home runs today. In fact, technically, I had a trade that was pretty darn close to a home run and came back to basically a break-even trade. We'll go over that one in the recap. Now, if you watched my recap from yesterday, I did a full training on helping you understand the difference between when a stock is about to dip and then rally versus dump. And this was something that we had a number of examples today where we had stocks that were beginning to pull back. And I was saying, guys, based on what we talked about yesterday, what do you think is going to happen? Is this going to dip or is it going to dump? And it becomes very clear once you recognize these subtle little hints that are on the chart. The chart is giving you the buy-sell signals. It's in the technical indicators. It's in the technical analysis. If you don't see it, it's because your eye hasn't been trained to learn how to read that. You haven't learned the language yet, at least not in full. You're not fluent, and that's okay because we all start somewhere. So make sure you go back and check out yesterday's episode on dip versus dump. Now, yesterday I peaked at about $43,000 in profit on the day, but I closed at $37,000, which is a solid green day. But I recognized that, I'd given back $6,000 in my last couple trades. So when I sat down this morning, because I didn't finish yesterday at the high, I wanted to be sure I didn't give back more of yesterday's gains, which I made in a couple of really nice trades, if the market wasn't hot today. So when I first sat down, I thought to myself, I've got to be a little bit cautious. I've got to be careful, use smaller size, and let's see if I can build a cushion. And I was able to do that. First trade was on PALI, P-A-L-I, and we'll jump onto the screen share so you can see the chart. PALI currently up 74%, although it's pulling back a little bit right now off the highs. Peaked at about, must have been like 130% or something like that on the day. And when I first sat down at about 6:45 to open up my live broadcast at 7 a.m. for members at Warrior Trading, this was the leading gapper and it was the most obvious stock. So, and there's a couple other things that were helpful on this. So the float, 1 million shares. So it's a 1 million share float. The price, between 2 and 10. It's a little on the cheaper side, but it's still tolerable. It's a biotech stock. And so for those reasons, I thought this definitely makes sense. There's a good amount of volume. And so I took my first trade on it coming right into 7 a.m. and that was right here. And we got this nice 1 million shares of volume right at 7 a.m. That's awesome. I love seeing that. So nice volume spike, super liquid, boom, jumped in, jumped out, $2,266.86. All right, building a little bit of a cushion. First trade's in the green, plus 2K. All right, so that was the first stock I traded, and that was right at 7 a.m. I always like it when I can get a cushion started early in the day. It just, feels now like I'm sort of in the driver's seat. Now I can kind of be a little bit more patient but also take a little bit more risk if we see a couple nice, other nice setups. So that was PALI. And that was right at 7 a.m. So then I'm sitting tight, 7:15, 7:20, nothing. And then 7:30, ZENA pops up on the scanner, Z-E-N-A. Now, if you remember this stock, it hit our scanners, was like a week and a half ago, on this day when it squeezed from $2 to $7, and the next day goes all the way to $12. That was some awesome momentum. We did well on it. I was very happy to see that momentum on those days. And then it's been pulling back for a couple of days, like a week. And then all of a sudden today, boom, we get breaking news. So we get news that comes out and it immediately starts spiking. So my initial reaction, to be honest, was I actually don't know if it's going to work. Because if I pull out the 1-minute chart, you'll see that it had a pop and a drop. It was on this day here where it popped up pre-market and gave back the whole move and then went red. It also had a pop and a drop on this day. So it was clean on sort of the day of the big move, but then after that, that was kind of it. So I was a little unsure about whether this was going to work. So I pulled it up on the chart. My workflow basically is stock hits the scanner. I click, if I like it based on what I'm seeing right here in this row of data, the ticker, which maybe I'm familiar with it like I was with ZENA, but if not, whatever. How much it's up on the day, the price, the volume, the float, the relative volume. So I click on it, and then by clicking on it, because my charts are linked together with this linking, it immediately pops up right here, and that's when I can see the news. Now, these stocks that have news will typically, when the news is fresh, it'll have a little flame right here. So when I saw, oh, ZENA's got news, I already knew it had news. I just needed to read the news and see what it was. So boom, it's got news. So at that point, I'm typing in my order entry window right here, ZENA. And when I type that in, this window, which is a separate window, but they're linked together. Some platforms have this all one box. Lightspeed has them separate, and then they just are linked. Anyways, kind of funny, but it doesn't matter. So anyways, I type in ZENA here, and then I'm looking at the spread. I'm looking to see if there's green on the tape. I'm looking to see if there's any big sellers, if there's any big buyers. And I'm watching the chart and kind of looking for a potential entry. So when it first popped up, it went from about 640 up to 690, about 690 up to 7. Then it pops up to 740, up to 750, and up to 8. So when it started to pull away here, I was like, all right, you know what? This thing's not going to wait for me. If I want to take a trade on it, I'm going to have to jump in. So I actually jumped in on this micro pullback right there and rode this momentum up to a high of 8. It dipped down here, but that was fine because I made money in this little leg. And this is also very common. You see increasing volume as the price is going higher. And so I like to trade it in this area when you've got higher amounts of volume because it's easier to get in and out, right? You can buy more shares. So made about $2,000, actually $2,900 right in that area, which was good. I was pleased with that. It pulled back and I was waiting to see, will we get another trade on it? But we did not. So on the 1 minute chart here, we had that basically first pop. And then by the time it was coming down for a 1 minute setup, we were below volume weighted average price. We'd pulled back too much. The volume profile was okay, but we went below VWAP. We just pulled back too much of the move. There were too many sellers. Now it did end up rallying back up later and I was ready to get back in, but it didn't break 8. So I said, no, I can't trust that. So it did not get back in. Now, if I'd taken this trade, the MACD, of course, about to curl, but that would have been a higher risk trade in any case. So anyways, didn't take it. That's just as well. Ended up pulling back. And then the last stock I traded was APVO. So APVO, this one's interesting. I'm sitting here 9 a.m. thinking I'm done for the day, up about 5,000. APVO hits my scanner and starts squeezing. Immediately I pull it up. I see it's a therapeutics company, biotech company. It's got news. It says 100% patients achieve remission within 30 days in cohort of da-da-da-da-da. So I'm like, okay. And the float, 500,000 shares. And it's a stock that has a ton of room all the way to the 200 moving average. Somewhat recent reverse split. So like this kind of lines up with what could potentially be a nice move, right? All right, so it pops up on my scanner and I start adding, and on this I did micro pullbacks. And these were it's gonna be hard to see. Basically, momentary pauses on the level 2, and then that's where I added. So my first add was this break at 12 here. I saw it break and I got in with a little slippage at 12. I then added at 13 and added at 14. So now I'm adding every dollar a share as it goes higher. And because of the volume being lighter, I couldn't go in with full size anyways. It was just too thin to do that. So I was just scaling in. So basically the approach on this is add every 50 cents to $1 a share. So add it at 12, add it at 13, add it at 14, add it at 15, add it at 16, add it at 17, add it at 18. I actually probably added almost, the high a day was 1869. But the thing is, in this moment, as it squeezed $6 a share, I was thinking because of the float and the fact that it has news and the daily chart, we might see a pretty impressive move. Now, why would I be so aggressive about adding? Let's look back at ZJK from last week. ZJK last week comes out with breaking news, and within 15 minutes, let's look at how much the stock squeezed up. All right, so we're going to go back here. So we're going to go right in here. So it hits the scanner, just like APVO did, at about 10:12. There it goes to 18. Pulls back. What's it do next? 22. Pulls back. What's it do next? 24, 28. Are you kidding me right now? All the way to $50 a share. I mean, this is crazy. Seriously crazy. Even a 1,000 share position, even just 1,000 shares of this, you could have made like 30 grand. This was such a big move. I mean, depending on where you got in and got out. With 5,000 shares, you could have made $150,000 or more. I mean, this was just unbelievable. So when APVO, which kind of felt to me similar in a way, based on the daily chart, the reverse split, the float, and everything else, and news, started popping up, I was like, okay, here we go. So I added and kept adding as it was going higher. The problem with doing that is I could have just gotten in at 12 and sold the whole thing at 14 or anywhere on here, but I kept adding. So when you add, you increase your cost basis. So my cost basis moved from what was initially 12 all the way up to somewhere around 15. And then look what happens on this candle. It goes from 1850 all the way back down. In fact, it went down to 14. It bounced back up to 17, but I got out as it came back down. I just said, this isn't going to work. So I was up several dollars a share in unrealized profit, and I didn't take it off the table because I thought this had the potential to go higher. So ended up locking up $1,300 on it, which is more than break even. It's not nothing, but it's certainly not the winner I was thinking it had the potential to offer. And then this all happens very quickly. When we're trading these types of stocks, they're moving very quickly. So then I pull up the news headline and I see that said 100% of patients achieve remission. Okay. 2 of 3 patients achieve both complete remission and MRD negative status. High response rates observed in earlier studies continue in ongoing trial. So then I'm like, wait a second. How many patients were in this whole trial, right? So now you're sort of like, and it's hard to digest these headlines. And of course, the companies want the headlines to be well received. But in any case, it sort of seemed like maybe traders, once they kind of digested that headline a little more, were questioning the substance of it. So in any case, the price came back down, bounced back up, but came back down. It's currently at 11. So, well, you never know. I'm happy to step up to the plate and take some risk in a market that's generally been pretty hot. Today was a little colder than yesterday, but we're kind of in a market where one day is like really hot and the next day is a little colder. So it's kind of like hot, cold. And that's fine. On the days when it's hot, I'm going to step up. I'm going to be aggressive and try to capitalize as much as I can. On the days when it's colder, I'm trying to be a bit more defensive, batten down the hatches, and not overstay my welcome. I think that's the right approach. So if you want to watch over my shoulder while I'm trading, you want to see my stream, you want to use the scanners, you want to use the charts and everything else, I'll put a link for a 2-week trial down in the description. 2 weeks, $20. You can watch over my shoulder. I think you're going to love it. Now, if you didn't watch yesterday's episode of Dip versus Dump, make sure you check that out because I think you'll enjoy that as well. And I want to remind you, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, and there's no guarantee you'll find success, whether you trade with me or you learn on your own. So I encourage you to always practice in a simulator before you put real money on the line. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'll see you guys back at it tomorrow morning.